On August 26, 1999, a riot of 65,000 people broke out at one of Japan's largest stadiums over a small set of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But how and why did the game's first OCG tournament wind up like this? Previously on Yu-Gi-Oh! OCG, we peeled open Volume 4 and dissected the introductions of select power cards, Summon Skull and Magician of Faith. But our journey takes us a couple videos back to Booster 3, where I discuss the invitations to the upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, Duelist Legend in Tokyo Dome on August 26. This was big, as it would be the first ever OCG national tournament, whereas the event brought up in my Booster 1 video was purely for the DM1 video game. And this was at the Tokyo Dome, one of Japan's largest stadiums, hosting icons like Michael Jackson and Kenny Omega. If you submitted your Shonen Jump invitation request, you'd receive special invitation cards, which surely made you feel like you're about to enter the Duelist Kingdom. So whether you're going for the OCG or the parallel DM2 tournament, it was clear that the Duelist Legend was going to be something worth remembering. And boy howdy, was it. Before the event took place, it was announced that a special pack would be for sale there, Premium Pack, a luxurious sounding pack which was amplified due to the nature that you could only get it at the Dome, and if you didn't, it would be gone forever. Initially, it was specified that it would be only for sale for those who entered the DM2 tournament side. However, at some point, this rule was changed to anyone who brought a copy of Shonen Jump magazine. If you don't know, that's one of the most widely circulated publications in all of Japan. So now, pretty much anyone who came could purchase these limited cards. Then the fateful day arrived. Weather, low 77, high 88, 0% precipitation. Konami originally estimated a turnout of 40,000 people, but by the time of the event, 55,000 people showed up in droves. Turned out that the advertising of the premium pack was so successful that a majority of people who arrived came just to buy the pack. Yeah, tens of thousands of people there to buy a single product sounds like a hamburger recipe for disaster. And I should note that there were 55,000 people inside. There were another 10,000 people left outside, unable to enter due to entry restrictions. Remember how the sale was originally for the select duelists who entered the DM2 side? Well, apparently Konami never updated their sales strategy to compensate for the influx of potential buyers. The amount of packs Konami produced was finite, and what's more is that there was only a single sale space located outside in the hot sun. All the while, young duelists were heading indoors and collecting their entry bonus cards, Gate Guardian and Magician of Black Chaos. These two cards were awesome for fans of the manga, albeit impossible to summon at the time, barring UO regions. For that matter, Gate Guardian would be rather competent, something I've discussed before. It does have to be mentioned that right before the qualifying round, there was a ruling that cleared up how Ultimate Offering is supposed to work, so no moth shenanigans. As the day progressed through the morning and into the afternoon, the sun only grew hotter like an infernal flame emperor. But for the duelists, the qualifying rounds progressed. For those who passed the first round qualifier, they would receive a single copy of Sengenjin. This Millennium primitive man had fair enough stats for a 2 tribute monster, overpowering Dark Magician, yet fairly weaker than Blue Eyes. Second round finalists would receive a copy of Serpent Knight Dragon, which is considerably weaker than Sengenjin, making me feel like the two cards should have been swapped as prizes. Speaking of prizes, make sure to win your prize by supporting me via Patreon to help the Janjo zone out in the long term. Your prize will be exclusive videos and early bird access. If you don't, Samoa Joe will find you, and he will give you the Muscle Buster. We don't want that now, do we? Outside the tournament, a different storm was brewing. As soon as sales began, the collection of sweaty card enthusiasts swarmed the booth, dissipating any semblance of an organized line. You could not move in this sea of nerds, as clearly Konami underestimated the fanbase's tenacity. I mean, what was even in this premium pack? The set contained 10 unique cards, with mostly terrible cards like Dharma Cannon and Dancing Elf. Even the 2 tribute monsters were weak in regards to the meta, with Cosmo Queen being at least stronger than the first round qualifier prize, even if 2 tribute good stuff builds in general were phased out. There would also be 2 effect monsters in Goddess of Whim and Time Wizard. Whim was interesting as it was a newly introduced random coin toss effect that could potentially bump its attack stat up to 1900 for the turn. But since it was random and could potentially backfire, having its attack instead, it was no more useful than Hourglass of Courage, which was deemed bad. Likewise, you have Time Wizard, of whom also contained a coin toss effect. If you call the toss right, you can Raigeki your opponent's board. However, if you miss, you Raigeki your own board and take some burn damage. Wizard was more fun than Whim, sure, and even still, it was hard to suggest with such a random effect. Though everyone clearly wanted a single card from Premium Pack, Exodia, the Forbidden One. Any fans of the manga knew of this card, and the hype built up from 4 previous releases. If you have this card and the 4 limbs in your hand at the same time, you win the duel. A wholly new win condition for a deck, which was mentioned in the starter guide, was worth the price of admission. People knew what was coming, and boy were they ready for it. Could you imagine if the TCG introduced Exodia in this way? But here's the funny thing. Not only was obtaining every Exodia piece difficult given their scarcity and timeline of releases, the cards in each pack were randomized, meaning if you bought one, there was a chance you wouldn't even pull Exodia nor the secret rare Time Wizard. Quite possibly, you could wait and miss the chaos and end up purchasing Mikazuka no Yaiba, Meteor Dragon, and Tour Purin. Although, at the very least, they allowed you to buy up to 5 packs. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has already been putting powerful cards in hard-to-obtain places like Aquamador, Kanan, and Kunai, so it wasn't surprising that the set featuring the final needed piece of Exodia was at the event. So now you know why people were filling in the sales area like boiling water in a kettle. Again, I repeat myself, this was 10,000 people outside waiting for their opportunity to buy the pack. Imagine stuffing thousands of Kaibas in a single location. This was an invasion of chaos, and by the mid-afternoon, the sales were postponed for 2 hours so Konami employees could try to contain the masses and get the products needed. People waited in the blistering heat for this grueling 2 hours, only to be met by Konami's response. Given the unmatchable demand and the threatening uproar was seemingly unquenchable, the sales of Premium Pack was cancelled altogether. Rightfully so, this made attendees furious. With so many people waiting for hours in the heat, it makes for one explosive cocktail. The commotion quickly turned into a riot, with thousands of people protesting and shouting at employees, others of their mindset, and even the clouds, had there been any. As any justified response, Konami called in the troops. No, not the Goblin Attack Force, rather the Riot Squad. According to an article in the LA Times, the deputy police chief stated he's never seen such an outcry. Yeah, the event was so big that news outlets outside Japan covered the story, even places like the USA, which didn't receive the card game for another 3 years. What was surprising, aside from adults writing over a children's card game, was that Japan is a culture typically consisting of rule followers. So the fact that the riot police arrived and the people were still protesting surely makes this one of the most embarrassing incidents in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! That is, until the police beat the shit out of 2 people. I would say Americans are better, but Black Friday. We're all just crazy humans. Due to the riot, the tournament was rightfully cancelled midway through, to be postponed for a later date. That would be on December 5th, although we don't know if the card pool was frozen or if duelists would be able to play with newer releases. To make up for the pack cancellation, they were made available later on via mail orders to attendees who had to show proof of their participation. If you were to find some of the cards at your local card shop, the aftermarket prices would have been extraordinary, with the likes of Time Wizard going for 100,000 yen or $637 USD. To be fair, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was already viewed as a pricey game. The tournament would eventually be split up as regional qualifiers, with copies of Trihorn Dragon given to the finalists. This unworthy dragon would still be a tall ass to play, and yet it was at least stronger than Cosmo Queen. For the winners of the whole shebang, the top 3 would receive copies of Firewing Pegasus, a one-tribute monster that was weaker than Summon Skull, but stronger than Curse of Dragon. I'm honestly surprised Konami didn't give us a monster with similar stats to this before Skull. Top 2 would receive copies of Meteor Black Dragon, a powerful fusion monster that puts Gaia the Dragon Champion to shame. Almost in ironic fashion, you needed the premium pack's Meteor Dragon for one of this card's fusion materials, and for the first place winner, a single copy of the notable Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon was given out. This is the ultimate fusion monster, eclipsing Meteor by 1,000 attack points. Not even Gate Guardian nor Ultimate Great Moth could reach the 4,000 barrier. The top 2 prices were only amplified by the 2 fusions' climactic inclusion in the 1999 Yu-Gi-Oh movie by Toei. Technically speaking, Ultimate was Blue Eyes White Dragon's 3-body connection, but all's the same. In regards to deck building, all the cards featured at the Duelist Legend tournament were incredibly difficult to obtain, especially the top 3 prize cards, and thus not feasible to include for future deck builds. Since it was so early in Yu-Gi-Oh's lifespan and given the nature of the event, no deck lists exist. However, we do know that Booster 4, which was released on the same day as said event, would not be legal at this time. Also important is that in the valuable Book 1, D-Spell was mentioned to deal with Swords of Revealing Light, and by the Tokyo Dome, it was ruled that Swords now does in fact stay on field. In the 1990s, trading card games took the world by storm, but on August 26, 1999, Yu-Gi-Oh! Took Japan in a malevolent tempest. What was set to be the first large-scale OCG tournament went out with a bang, and not the one Konami was expecting. Despite Konami attempting to remedy the solution in a variety of ways, the damage was already dealt. People would not listen. And August 26, 1999 went down as one of, if not the most infamous day in Yu-Gi-Oh! History. All this over a pack that may have gotten the buyer a Frog the Jam.